Let's get a strategy. No, we got a short one. That's nice. Returning from a lunch he had been able to reach, cleared his throat and said, I've been thinking this through. We ought to be able to work something out. The next day, the business community threw in the towel. All the political elite wanted to carry on the struggle. On June 19, 1963, President Kennedy sent a national civil rights bill to Congress. This was followed by the dramatic march to Washington in late August 1963, organized by Rustin, involving 250,000 people and culminating in King's famous "I Have a Dream" speech. Civil rights were now assured a place at the top of the American political agenda. Inevitably, at this point, the movement came to face the fact that political rights did not guarantee improvement in economic or social conditions. The vote did not feed the children or pay the rent, although it did make possible further forms of political activity that might help over time. But King's campaign culminated not with black satisfaction, but with frustration as riots broke out in the inner cities. As King began to turn his attention to issues of poverty, the question was whether the methods that had brought political gains in the South and launched him to national prominence could work across the country on issues that were much more intractable. King had led a focused campaign with a clear set of objectives. Working with communities he understood and with tactics that once refined served both to coerce local white establishments through economic pain and turn the media spotlight onto the inequities of segregation by provoking their police forces into violence. The whites saw their local businesses being hurt by bus boycotts and city center mayhem if they tried to suppress the movement with the methods that had served them well in the past. They alienated northern politicians and the media. If they held back, they had few options other than to find a new modus vivendi with blacks. The movement's strategists could comfort themselves even as their people suffered harsh treatment that this played into their hands. So long as their people did not buckle under the pressure, the contrast between the dignity of the protesters and the brutality of the police created a stunning media spectacle. The problem was never with the clarity of a cause. The segregationist arguments were incredible and untenable at odds with liberal values. The challenge was to convince blacks had to gain the same rights as other Americans. They had to work together and to develop a considerable local organization. In meeting both these requirements, the church played a central role. The strategy also required nonviolence. This was not because of any expectation that segregationist hearts could be turned by this form of witness, but because it ensured that the movement kept the moral high ground. Those who learned their politics and the civil rights movements were convinced of the value of direct action and saw comparable causes to demand their attention, but these causes would not be so clear-cut as civil rights. The radical politics of the 60s began with dignity and restraint, but soon turned angry with riots in the urban ghettos and sharp reactions against an illegitimate war. That was 365. That was page 365.